What's going on, everyone? My name is Burke, bringing you the 5th week of the PICA Power Rankings. But of course, I am not alone. I'm joined by my co-host, Xavier.
Hello, everyone.
So, another pretty good week for PICA. I don't know why I want to say that. I'm so used to saying that. But another good week. Not as much change in the Power Rankings from last week. Mostly because it's starting to solidify. We're in the 5th week, going into the 6th week. So things are starting to settle down in terms of who is likely to make the playoffs at this point.
Yeah.
So I guess we won't waste any time. We'll just jump straight into number 12. At my number 12, and I know you agree with me, we still have the DMR Shadow Absols. At this point, I don't really know what to say. He's still winless. And this week, he played the Atlanta Braviary. I don't think... He got lucky, and at the same time unlucky. Because he brought Scolipede, and, last week we said, what's he going to actually do with it? And he's hazard sacking with it. And that's perfectly fine. That's a good idea. But the reason I say he was lucky and unlucky at the same time, it was kind of a stupid move to try to hazard stack right away. You look at the Braviary's team, he's got both Mega Scizor and Togekiss, 2 possible defoggers, both of which barely get affected by the hazards. Togekiss does not care about spikes and T-spikes. Mega Scizor doesn't care about the T-spikes. It'll take some damage from the spikes, but it can roost. So, it's not very... You want to at least wear down those Pokemon before trying to start hazard stacking, and then you look at the rest of his team. For his Rotom Heat doesn't care about them. So 2 things are completely immune to those hazards. And he's just got other ones that aren't even really weak to much. So that was kind of, for me, But then he also got lucky because, for some reason, the Atlanta Braviaries, they see Scolipede in the opposite team, and they don't bring any defoggers. Neither Mega Scizor nor Togekiss had defog this week. I'm thinking, why would you not bring defog against a team that has a really good rock setter and a possible hazard stacker with both spikes and T-spikes? That can really hurt you. And, the Braviaries got lucky that didn't actually, that it didn't actually hurt him too much because the DMR Shadow Absols had absolutely nothing for the Togekiss. Togekiss got 4 kills this week, just ran straight through his team. I think he finally killed it with the Donphan, I want to say.
I think it was Donphan.
Yeah, so it took his whole team of sacking it off and getting T-waved for the Donphan to finally kill it. I'm pretty sure it was a Donphan. I don't think it was the Latios.
I doubt it was the Latios.
Yeah. I might be mixing stuff up, but it doesn't really matter. He didn't plan very well for that Togekiss, and it showed. Because if Togekiss can just get clean 4 kills, and it wasn't like the Braviaries had to switch it out, switch it back, do a lot of switch games, and eventually get 1 kill here, and then later in the match get another kill there. It was just, send in the Togekiss, T-wave, kill, T-wave, kill, T-wave, kill.
Mm-hmm.
So it just sat there for a while. And so the Braviaries just had the team matchup, and if he needs to be able to start planning better for each week, or he's just going to sit here at number 12. And now that I look at it, it is the Latios that got the kill, because the Donphan got the Togekiss kill because it set up the rocks.
Okay.
Yeah. So, got anything to add?
Well, the DMR Shadow Absols are also my number 12, and it's just, as the weeks go on, especially since he's been staying in the same spot, it's very hard to keep adding on to what I have to say about him. In the defense of Ty, I guess, I just wanted to add on real quick, he does have a lot of possible hazard removal. He has a lot of defoggers and a spinner. So what makes me curious is why the DMR Shadow Absols decided to go the hazard stacking route against this team in particular. Like, I suppose they could work, But with all that hazard removal, I don't see exactly what he was trying to do. Like, I guess against the team Ty brought, yes, it works, but against the team, like 90% of the teams he could have brought, it wouldn't work, is the thing. So I don't know why he did that. It's just very questionable. And just overall, I've still not gotten a reason to move him out of 12, so that's where he stays.
Yeah, actually, Ty has 4 possible defoggers and a possible spinner.
Yeah, so
Mew, Mega Scizor, Salamence, and Togekiss all get defog, and then there's Tentacruel for the spin. So yeah, it doesn't really make much sense to try to bring a hazard stacking team with that much hazard removal potential, but I'm going to be a little more harsh on Ty for not seeing the possibility of hazard stacking and just not bring anything to get rid of the hazards.
Yeah, it's definitely something he should have considered, but at the same time, I'm surprised that Absol's actually decided to bring them.
Yeah. I mean, it's both kind of a weird planning on each end.
Yeah.
But I think that's all I got for them.
Or maybe the Shadow Absols are just so genius and predicted him not to bring the hazard removal.
Well, we'll never know.
Who knows? Maybe he'll be number 1 next week once he tells me about the amazing sheer genius of hazard stacking.
He's still 0-5, so it's going to be very hard for him to go up to number 1, because at this point, he can only be 6-5 if he wins out at this point, and that's not a very good record to try to get the playoffs.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess we'll just move on to number 11. I think we also agree on this one. We have the Manhattan Manectrics. And pretty much what I said in the previous weeks also applies. You know, this week he did bring his new Mon and Typhlosion. And he brought it. I think he brought a good team. The problem, though, that I see is if you look at his team from this week and you look at his team from last week, there's not much that's different. You know what I mean? His team is going to be very consistent. He's always going to bring the Mega Venusaur, pretty much. He's going to bring the Jolteon. He's going to bring the Skarmory, and he's going to bring probably the Tornadus. You know, he brought those same 4 Mons, and then he lines it up with Typhlosion and Kecleon. But again, his team is lacking in offensive versatility. And even though his defense is very good, it has to come together. You know, Mega Venusaur Skarmory is almost always going to be a pair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be hard for him to... He needs to be able to break out of that, and it's going to make his team very predictable week to week. Like, that I see is a huge problem for him. I see him playing pretty well. Like, I don't have too many complaints about his battle this week when he's playing. Vespiquen Park Rangers brought that Zoroark, which I think threw him for a loop, because it killed the Mega Venusaur with an extra sensor. I think it was Hippowdon. It showed up as Hippowdon, and he was able to get the kill.
Oh yeah, that's kind of funny.
And I think it was very good playing on the Vespiquen Park Rangers, and then he got swept at the end with the Mega Aerodactyl, which at that point he couldn't do much about, and it happens. He got rid of the counters on the Manectrics team, and that was able to just wipe it out. So, it's not... I say his team's going to be predictable. It's going to be hard for him to break out of it, just because it's not a fault with him. I don't think he's a not creative person and can think outside the box and come up with some really interesting sets. It's just that's how his team's going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He can't change it, or he's going to... he can change it during free agency, but he can't change kind of like the formula of his team, or he's just not going to have a good defensive core or offensive core, and it's just going to be hard for him. So...
Yeah, I had them at my number 11 as well. It's definitely a pretty predictable team, and it's definitely a team that, I feel like he's trying to be offensive with it, but at the same time, I feel like the defensive route is just, he's kind of, tied to that.
Mm-hmm.
And just overall, I put him above the Shadow Absols because 2 of his losses are not his fault, really. but at the same time, he's still not winning. This week, he lost to a team that we have not had super highly the last few weeks. And overall, it's just I see no reason to move him up still. And it's like,
yeah,
it makes me sad to have to say that, but that's the truth.
Yeah, because just like the DMR Absols, I want to see them. I don't want to see any team go winless. That's just that sucks because you don't want to come to the league and be winless. But it's gonna be hard for him. It's gonna be hard.
It's definitely tough to come back once you've kind of dug yourself into a hole this deep. In his case, partially dug. But yeah, there's not too much to say since not much has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar complaints.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So what's your number 10?
So anyway, moving up to number 9. Number 10. Whoa, I'm skipping places already. Number 10, I have the Middle Earth Magmortar. They moved down one spot from last week. The reason being, he got 6-0'd this week. And, it's like, I don't want to just, like... Hold on.
You okay there?
Some weird Skype stuff.
Okay.
So, he got 6-0'd this week. And, I don't want to kind of, like, throw salt in the wound. It hurts to get 6-0'd like that. But the only way you get 6-0'd like this is if you don't plan well. And I did not see good planning on his part. He didn't have the means to break through the defense. He didn't have the means to break through the defense of the Chelsea Shandies. And the Chelsea Shandies was just able to... Bronzong getting 2 kills, Gengar getting 2 kills. His Mega Charizard didn't really do much. His walls got half his kills. Bronzong and Quagsire got 3 out of 6 kills. And it's just going to... I don't think this is going to... He hasn't planned this poorly. This was the worst week for him, obviously. A 6-0 is the worst you can get. But, I haven't seen him plan this badly, but... Man, Skype is just... So, he brought some mods that I knew weren't going to work well. Claydol, I just hate Claydol. Like, I'm just going to say I hate Claydol. I think it's a terrible spinner. It's a good spinner in NU, but that's not saying much. So, he brings the Claydol. It doesn't do much. And his team just was not... I don't know. There's not really much to say. He didn't bring... I don't think it was a terrible matchup for him. Like, I don't see any teams having a terrible matchup against any other team. But I don't really know what to say. You got 6-0'd. I had to move him down.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like, maybe if it were 6-0 where something very unexpected, like a really crazy set swept him or something, like, I feel like that would be a bit more forgivable, because, like, if someone, like, does something crazy and sweeps you, but... Yeah, no, this was just him not being able to get through his team. Yeah,
this, to me, it was just poor planning. And this is what happens when you don't plan well. You're not breaking through the enemy team. Like, unless the other team also plans poorly, counter-teaming... The counter-teaming part is easily, 50%.
Yeah.
50% of the battle is the counter-teaming aspect, and the other 50% is actually playing it. So if you counter-team well and then you play like shit, then of course you're going to lose.
Yeah.
But if you don't plan well, then you got to play the best you've ever played, or there's no chance of winning. And this week showed.
Yeah, so. Definitely a disheartening loss. But my number 10 was the Vespkin Park Rangers. Now, they did win this week, but they beat the Manhattan Manectrics, which is a team that is still yet to get a win. I put him above the 2 teams that he's beaten so far, which to me seems fair, considering he's lost to all the other teams. One thing that's kind of confusing to me is that he brought the Hip out on an Excadrill combo when his opponent had a Skarmory and a Mega Venusaur, which could both just wall it very well. Maybe Mega Venusaur less so, but Skarmory can't really touch that at all.
Mm-hmm.
in any way. I do enjoy seeing Zoroark put in work, like in the illusion actually work.
Yeah, it actually did work.
I think that's just really cool, like seeing that actually work, because I honestly didn't think it was going to work at all. I thought people were just going to see it coming from a mile away every time, but I mean, I'm pretty sure the Manhattan Manectrics aren't the first team to get confused by it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the Washington Red Shells got thrown for a loop for a second, even though it didn't like hurt them too much. They just got really confused. Which, I mean, it's understandable. It's a pretty easy thing to forget.
Yeah, just as well. If neither mon is damaged, it's sometimes you're just like, oh wait, was the Zoroark actually hurt? No, yes, and then you forget.
Yeah, sometimes it's just painfully obvious. Sometimes it's like a 50-50 chance.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just never know. But yeah, it's nice to see that put in work. That makes me happy. And the Mega Aerodactyl, which I believe is pretty underrated in this format, since it's like a UU Mega, but it's so fast and hits so hard. I think it's really good and nice to see it picking up 3 kills. But overall, I just don't think that he's been playing consistently, planning consistently, and I don't see a reason to move him up much higher. I guess you definitely could make an argument, like, as you put the Middle Earth Magmortar below him, but I still feel as though he should be sitting at the number 10 spot.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. And I guess moving on, my number 9, I have the Vespiquen Park Rangers. He did win this week, and yeah, I get some of the problems you see with his team. He's bringing the Hippowdon Excadrill combo against someone with the Skarmory, but I think he brought the appropriate measures to deal with the Skarmory, because I know Skarmory does wall it. Skarmory's very passive, alright? Skarmory's not doing much back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think that was much of a problem. He did have the Zoroark, which does carry fire's coverage. He does have Manaphy, which Skarmory can't do anything to, and is going to have to, Manaphy was out on the Skarmory, and even though I think it was a Spadef Skarmory because Scald wasn't doing too much, but the Skarmory can't do anything back to the Manaphy. So I think he did bring the appropriate measures to deal with the Skarmory. Mega Venusaur, again, he brought things to deal with Mega Venusaur. Mega Aerodactyl, Zoroark, deal with the Mega Venusaur just fine. Did the Hippowdon Excadrill combo work? No. He did not go to sleep. Excadrill got 0 kills. But I didn't see that as big of a problem. It actually would have worked well, because you look at also the Manectric's team, Typhlosion and Jolteon are going to have a very hard time dealing with the Hippowdon Excadrill combo. Right? Hippowdon comes in, Sand gets set up, Excadrill can kill with the Typhlosion Jolteon before they even get a chance to move, and the Tornadus is not going to appreciate anything the Excadrill goes for. And I know we're talking about that, but it doesn't really matter because that never happened.
Yes.
So I did really like how he played the Zoroark. It worked very well. And Mega Aerodactyl, he did what he needed to do with the Mega Aerodactyl. He set up the Hone Claws and then just swept, because at that point Manhattan Manectrics had nothing faster than the Mega Aerodactyl. He didn't go for the Tailwind with the Tornadus Eye, which I think maybe could have helped him. But Mega Aerodactyl just swept at that point. And I know it's against a team that is currently winless, but I liked how he's performing much more than the Middle Earth Magmortars this week. And so I moved him up 1 spot. It wasn't much, but I felt like that win, he might be able to carry momentum. But again, it's so inconsistent that I have no idea.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense. It's just, I don't know. I had high hopes for him at the beginning, but then he just kind of has been letting me down a little more each week.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he'll come back and win some games. That'd be nice to see, but only time will tell.
Yeah.
And now moving on to the number 9 slot, the one team to rule them all, the Middle Earth Magmortars. They got 6-0'd. It's not nice. It's not fun for anyone, except for the person who did the 6-0ing. But overall, it's just, he didn't plan well to break through the team. As I said earlier, it's not like one surprise set just came out and wrecked him. Like one random Pokemon that he happened to overlook just came out and swept him. No, it was the entire team kind of working in tandem that he just couldn't deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Which should not happen unless you plan badly. Just ever. But I've had him consistently low throughout the season in around the same area, like the 8, 9, 10 slots. And I have so far this season have not seen a reason to move him up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kind of like his team, except for the whole hazard weakness. Like, I could definitely see it working. He just has to use it a bit better.
Yeah.
Because, like, I definitely see potential in his team, and I really like his team name, which is the best one in the league. But it's just, he has to plan and play consistently for me to put him up higher and for him to actually win games.
Yeah. I guess both the Park Rangers and the Magmortars have the same problem that we're still seeing. It's just that consistency.
Yeah, that's like a pretty general problem a lot of the lower teams have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
Moving on to number 8, I have the Atlanta Braviary. This is going to be kind of critical, just because I said some of it when I was talking about the DMR Shadow Absols. I didn't move him up because he beat the DMR Shadow Absols in, which is my lowest ranked team. So it wasn't. If he lost this, if the Atlanta Braviary lost this would be a much bigger loss than it would be a win, just because he has I think the better team, and he plans better, and he just played better. Now, this is going to sound very nitpicky, and I know, Ty, you were talking about this, how it's really stupid. You sacked off the Togekiss, alright? And it might not seem like a lot, because you did have the match pretty much in your pocket at that point, but that was a very sloppy play. You could have had a 5-0, and I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but in a battle, even if you think you have the win, you can't ease up and just make some plays that might be a little bit sloppy. In this case, he just sacked off the Togekiss. He could have kept that differential high, but he just forgot how much the Togekiss was at, which you can check. And you know the rocks are up, which you can also see, and you just send the Togekiss and it dies. So, I know this seems very nitpicky. It's like, oh, it's a 4-0 instead of a 5-0. What's the big deal? Well, I don't want to see that kind of sloppy play later in the season, because if you think that you have the match and then you do something stupid, you could lose the match. And I don't want to see that happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to see him ease up at all during the match. You only ease up when you've won, or you only ease up when you've lost. You don't ease up any point in that. So that's that. The other thing is, maybe he thinks no one's going to bring hazards against him, but you're playing a team in which they have Donphan, which Stealth Rocker, duh, and Scolipede, which is a hazard sacker, and you bring no defog options. All right, you bring defog options. You don't use them though. Mega Scizor didn't have defog, which I totally agree with. I do not like defog Scizor that much, just because you're putting in very offensive pressure in a very defensive role. And you bring in Togekiss, which can have defog, but you decide not to bring it. So I think he got lucky in the fact that DMR Shadow Absols had almost nothing for the Togekiss. He got lucky in that regard. And he didn't need like half his team, because Togekiss, he sent it in and it just kind of swept up the team. Real nice and easy right until the end. So I'm not moving him up, just because I didn't think this was a huge win for him. Also, the Togekiss sack off, plus the planning, to me, was just a little weird. Like, normally you see a team like the DMR Absols, like, I should probably bring something with spin or defog, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
And I know he does have all those options, and maybe he's comfortable with the fact that people might not want to use hazards against him because of it, but you can't bank on that. Alright? You don't have it. It's like if your team has Mega Sableye and you're banking on your opponents not bringing the hazards because well, I got Mega Sableye, I'll just bounce him back. So, and magic bounces are worse because you can actually bounce back the hazards instead of just getting rid of them. So, those are my nitpicky details. He planned well. I'm not gonna, I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm not moving him down. I have some complaints from this week, as you can obviously hear, and the other teams above him, I just see them playing a little bit better, and I see them being more consistent. Well, most of them. So that's why I'm at number 8. That's all I got.
Yes, and my number 8, I have the Detroit Pincers. Now, let me start off with his planning. I thought his planning was good. He brought good walls to wall his opponent's team. He brought good offensive pressure to break through his opponent's team. One thing he did overlook in the match, which, as you can look at it, got 2 kills, the Jellicent, was a huge problem for him. Luckily, he managed to whittle it down to the point where a Mamoswine Earthquake could kill it.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it was a huge threat to his team that it really does look like he overlooked the planning. Because when you look at his team he brought, Weezing, Florges, Slowbro, Mamoswine, Haxorus, Heatran, what efficiently kills a Jellicent there?
Heatran with a Dark Pulse? Not much.
Yeah, because nothing's going to get out of there unscathed, unburnt, or without a huge stall war. So it's just, he didn't really have a way to get around that, which, it's an NU Pokemon that, on his opponent's team, I guess he just overlooked it, but I don't know, I feel like that was kind of an important thing, which he got. I don't know if it was necessarily lucky, or if he just, he planned it himself, but, he managed to get around it, which is good. But the main problem I have with what he did is, at the end of the game, he could have won. He definitely, I thought he was going to win. I'm sitting here okay, this is what, I know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to do this and he's going to win. Mm-hmm. No, he doesn't do it. He leaves the Weezing in on a Rotom, which kills it with a Thunderbolt. Now, if he had switched out the Weezing, his opponent's only other Pokemon was the Cobalion, which cannot touch Weezing. Basically, if he saves Weezing, he wins against the Cobalion, and he just needs to use his Heatran and his Mamoswine to kill a Rotom-Mow. Doesn't sound very hard, right? Well, basically, he sacks off the Weezing, and I'm thinking, oh no, this is terrible. Okay, wait. That Thunderbolt should not have killed. That has to be a Specs Rotom-Mow. So I'm like, okay, he's going to go out into Mamoswine, and he's going to go for Earthquake, because he has to switch out to Cobalion, because it's a Specs Rotom-Mow. And he goes out into Heatran, and goes for the Lava Plume. The Lava Plume doesn't kill, and he gets killed by a Specs Thunderbolt. Mm-hmm. Which, apparently the Lava Plume was a low roll, but still he had no reason to risk that at that point when he could have just gone out into the Mamoswine, which the Rotom-Mow couldn't touch as it was locked in the Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
So it's just, he had it on, he had the game locked in, but then, excuse me 1 second. Okay. He had the game locked in, but then he kind of threw it away, and then at that point he could have still taken it, but he goes out into Heatran. Now, I don't know if he just wasn't running calcs and was just going off of memory, which I assume is what he was doing. If he was if the nerves were getting to him or what that was, but I just feel at the end there, he shouldn't have lost that game at the end there if he would have just taken the time to think about his plays a bit more. But that kind of hastiness is just, that can kill you a lot of the time. I can't count the amount of times where I've seen someone just not think things through, and then they just overlook something so obvious, and those kind of things, just not taking the time to think about your decisions and all of the possible scenarios and looking at the numbers. It's just that if you don't do that, you're just not gonna perform well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And moving on to number 7, I have the Detroit Pincers. Maybe I should have put them at 8. I'm not too. These numbers again, kind of a little hazy, just because where do you put them? But Yeah,
they're very similar. It's not too big of a distinguish between a lot of these. It's just slight differences in opinion.
Yeah, so I had he had that game. He didn't need the Mammoth Swine at the end. He could have sent it in on the Thunderbolt or the Leaf Storm. It couldn't have gone for either. You don't need the Mammoth Swine. All right? I'm pretty sure the Detroit Pincers had Rocks up at that point, if I remember correctly.
I believe they did.
Okay, so he had Rocks up. He banked on a roll. All right? And I sympathize. I've been burnt by that before. Yeah. Getting the burn.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, I see what I did there. I've been hurt by that before. Low rolls plus no burn. It's happened to me in our league in the quarterfinals. My Entei was in on a low punny, took the hit, Entei choice banded. I go for the Sacred Fire. I had done the calc. It was a 95% damage minimum. The low punny was at full. I had like a 96% chance to kill. If I got the minimum low roll, it wouldn't have killed. At that point, I still had the 50% chance to burn. I also did not burn it, and it survived.
And you could have gotten a crit.
And I could have, and he could have gotten a crit too. The Pincers could have gotten a crit.
So we'll just nullify that, but that's like a 2% chance.
Yeah, so sometimes you do have to bank on a roll. There's some times when you do, but this was not one of those cases. He goes in the Mammoth Swine, it goes for whatever it goes for. You don't need it. You can probably assume if it's not choiced, it doesn't matter. Not choiced, it wasn't a very big threat if it wasn't choiced. It was choiced. It was choice specs. It could have been choice scarf. Doesn't matter. You go into your Mammoth Swine, you sack it off, you go into the Heatran. Heatran outspeeds because it is choice scarfed. You go for the Lava Plume. He cannot switch in the Cobalion. So he's either going to have to let that die or take massive damage. Or he switches in the Cobalion and that dies too. And he decided to go for the Thunderbolt. If he switched in his Mammoth Swine, it would have had to switch out. At that point, you just go for the Earthquake, kill off the Cobalion, and you win. And I understand, hindsight is hindsight. So, what I say, I know he recognized that immediately after the battle. Like, I get that. Hindsight is hindsight. But when you have the battle unlocked like that, it's really disheartening to see just kind of throwing it away. So, he moved down 3 spots, and maybe he should have moved down more for that, but I don't want to see I can't, if it happens again, he's just going to keep moving down. So, next week, hopefully he plays better. He was doing very well in the beginning of the season. Now he's faltering quite a bit. So, he's out of the top 6 because he's got a losing record now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to see because his draft was one of my favorites at the beginning of the season, and he was performing well. Seeing this little downhill slope is it kind of sucks, but hopefully he'll bring it back.
Yeah. So.
But anyway, my number 7 was the Atlanta Braviary. Now, I completely agree with what you said. He should not have just banked on him not wanting to set up hazards against his team and just all that. That makes perfect sense. Now, in a way, I can see what he was thinking there, because, why would someone try and set up hazards, come with the idea to set up hazards against a team like that, and then immediately try and do it when your opponent has Togekiss and Mega Scizor, which both could potentially have the defog.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose maybe he wanted to force those in, but at that early on in the game, I really don't feel like that was an optimal play.
Yeah.
Now, I definitely feel like the Atlanta Braviary, their planning, to me, seems pretty good. There are definitely some questionable things, throughout the weeks. But overall, I think their planning's been okay. Their playing is what's been just kind of, odd sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I was kind of talking about this with the Detroit Pincers.
he hasn't quite done it to like the scale of like throwing a match completely away yet.
Yeah.
I don't think, but it's just sometimes he just makes weird plays that I don't understand. Like he makes switches into Pokemon that have like conjoining weaknesses. I don't know what the proper term. What's the proper term for that? Conjoining weaknesses, like shared weaknesses. Yeah. Like sometimes he does that. As you said, he sacked off the Togekiss for like no real reason. So it's just I don't know. Sometimes he just makes weird plays like that. I still keep him at number 7 because to me he seems like a bit of a wild card. Like I don't know what he's gonna do. I don't know if he's gonna go up or I don't know if he's gonna go down. He's just
there.
He's confusing to me.
All right.
Like I have no idea if he'll either do good or bad. Even though we're 5 weeks in, he just baffles me sometimes. Like sometimes he'll do really good, sometimes he'll do very questionable things.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the players that we look at. It's just like consistency.
It's just like I don't know. Sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's kind of bad. And
it's hard to tell.
I don't know. Maybe he's been joking around a bit, and now he's just going to go full tryhard mode and just only get 6-0s for the rest of the season. We never know.
All right, well, now moving on to the top 6.
Yes,
we agree on number 6. I think we both have the Chelsea Shandies.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, Chelsea Shandies. They're also a little bit of a wild card for me. But I had to move him up. He got a 6-0 this week. He's planning really well, and there's really not much at this point I can say about him. Just that if he keeps doing what he just did, he's going to move up more.
Yeah, you know that thing he just did this week? Keep doing that.
Yeah, keep doing that, all right? What you just did, keep doing it, all right? His planning, I think, is getting better, and his playing, I think he's more... I think he's finally getting into the swing of how his team works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's always that trial period where some people just pick up their team real quick because they're used to all the mons. I think he might not have been used to some of the mons he's been using, but now he's starting to get used to them, and he's using them very effectively. So if he just keep like this, talking about this team, I have less criticisms about the top 6 than I do of the bottom 6. He just keeps doing what he's doing. Top 6 is a very good spot to be in. It means I think he at this point is more likely to make the playoffs than the other teams below him. And I don't really got much else. I really liked his planning this week. His walls got half the kills against the Middle-earth Magmortards. Granted, this match was not... This match, I think, was a little bit easier for him because the Middle-earth Magmortards, although a very good team, did not plan as well. So, that's all I got.
Yeah. As we already said, my 6 is also the Chelsea Shandies. But, yeah, he got a 6-0. I really don't see how you can have a single criticism for someone who did as good as they possibly could in a week. Because, I mean, yes, it is against a team that has been pretty consistently low, but still, getting a 6-0 is nothing to sneeze at no matter what the team is. Mainly due to the fact, because I don't feel like anyone has a very, very, very distinguishing skill level gap. Even though, like, it appears as though there is, but I don't think it's, like, too big.
Yeah.
I definitely feel as though anyone could still be anyone. Which, I mean, we've seen a lot of already throughout the season. Like, we've seen... I'm pretty sure the team we put on one, like, lost the following week for, like, the past, like the first 3 weeks or something, didn't it?
Yeah, you lost week 4.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's weird how things turn out. And, like, the Chelsea Shandies, 6-0, you get the number 6 spot. Congratulations. You're matching.
All right. Well,
you'll move up if you keep doing that, though. Those 6s will turn into 5s, and then 4s, and then 3s, and then 2s, and then 1s.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Again, the only criticism I have against him right now is just consistency. I mean, but then again, I got that criticism against most teams. So take what I say with a grain of salt at this point.
Yeah, there are very few teams that I feel like... There's a handful of teams that I can honestly say that I think are very consistent.
Yeah. But getting into one of the teams that I think is a little bit more consistent than we thought he was going to be, my number 5 is the Sequim Malamars. They did lose this week, and they also, on my rankings, moved up one. Go figure. He's 3-2 right now, and he's much more consistent than I thought he was going to be. And he's been using his team very well. Like, I don't really have many criticisms this week on how he played. He got swept by the Heracross, though. Choice Scarf Heracross, I think the Toronto Tarantulas just outplayed him late game. For that entire game, he had the edge. He was ahead, and he was playing well, and then Heracross comes in and just kills everything left.
Yeah, he has no fighting resist, and it's just...
Yeah, and so like that's a little bit of... You have a team... You're playing against a team with Heracross. Heracross is a huge threat. Don't underestimate it. And but seriously, getting... This is the thing. He was playing against a team that we had number 1 last week, and he's just showing why he's still number 1. Spoiler alert.
Oh, wow.
But Sequim Malamars, I still don't really have many criticisms, although I know it's your mascot. I think Malamar's pretty bad in this format. It's very easily planned for. It's slow. It's got a 4 times focus to bug, which you also are playing as a team with a lot of U-turn access and Heracross. So there's that. So I think his planning, I think, was very well, aside from the Malamar. It's like Claydol for me. You know, it's also like Claydol. I just don't like... I think Malamar's better than Claydol, but I think they're both bad mons in this format. I know you can say stuff to try to convince me otherwise, but that's just how I feel about it. But yeah. I like this team, and I like how it's shaping up, especially after the free agencies from last week. And he's doing well, and I moved him up actually just because of how the other teams performed, not based on how he performed. You lose, you don't usually move up, but if he plays and plans as well as he's been playing in previous weeks, I think he's going to do well. He was playing against the number 1 team, so you can't really fault him for losing. I know I'm not trying to put the Tarantulas on a pedestal, but they're being pretty dominant right now. So
yeah, I believe they're the only team that we've had in the top 6 or maybe in the top 3 ever since the pre-draft power rankings.
Yeah, so that's all I got for my number 5.
Okay, so my number 5, me and Burke were talking about it before we started, and he did mention that it might be I might be being a bit harsh, but, I mean, it's just my opinion, and I don't think, he's been winning a lot, but I just don't feel like the Iowa Focus Energy have really been proving a super, I don't feel like his planning... It's his planning that I mainly have a problem with. He's been making predictions in his match. He's been, thinking ahead. He's been doing good in that regard, I feel like. But his planning, to me, seems a bit lackluster. And this week, I just have one major complaint. I don't think he did bad during the match. Just one thing he did is he just kept setting up for no reason. He set up with a Cobalion when his opponent had a full health Slowbro and Weezing. Mm-hmm. When he could have gone for an Iron Head or Sacred Sword for chip damage.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why he wouldn't at least do that, because the switch is obvious. He didn't have Volt Switch on the set, which it makes sense. The Swords Dance set, don't get me wrong, I don't think the Swords Dance was a bad idea. If he got rid of the Slowbro and the Weezing, or maybe even just whittled down the Weezing.
Yeah.
It definitely could have swept him because it outspeed the majority of his team. It wasn't a bad idea. The Magnet Rise he had on it, though, to me just seemed silly. Because I don't know what the point of that was. Was that, set up a Swords Dance and a Magnet Rise?
No, the plan... I saw the plan for the Magnet Rise immediately. It was his Mammothswine counter. That Mammothswine was not Choice Scarf. The Mammothswine could not kill the Cobalion.
But couldn't a Sacred Sword just kill it outright, the Mammothswine?
Not necessarily. If you have a more defensive Mammothswine, it might be hard to kill just as well. Haxorus comes in, All right? Haxorus can't go for an Earthquake because it will outspeed. He can go for the Magnet Rise and prevent the Haxorus from killing him too. So the things that have the ground coverage can't do anything to the Cobalion because it's faster. I know it seems a little silly. Like, why don't you just go for the Sacred Sword? Sacred Sword from a Cobalion is not that strong. Cobalion only has base 90 attack. Sacred Sword is only a base 90 attack also. It's not close combat.
Yeah, but Mamoswine only has, it has pretty low defenses. Good HP, low defense.
Yeah, but why risk the possibility of not killing the... Why risk the possibility of not killing the Mamoswine and then dying to an Earthquake? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I can kind of see the thought process, but at the same time, in theory, it sounds good, but I feel like it just seems silly to me. I don't really get it, because, you beat a Mamoswine, and his Mamoswine isn't going to be his answer to Cobalion, and I doubt, anyone who's versing a team is going to be like, oh god, Cobalion. I know you used it in the ISL, and you thought it was trash.
I didn't think it was trash. It didn't fit on my team. That's why I didn't use it. I think Cobalion is... I think Cobalion's a big threat. People overlook it. It currently has the most kills on his team. It is 7-1 right now. I think he's using Cobalion very well. So, I don't have complaints about how he used Cobalion, although, yeah, the setting up early was a little bit odd. That's just me.
Yeah, I just don't get the setting up early. I feel like Magnet Rise, it could be replaced with a move like X-Scissor or Zen Headbutt to hit either the Weezing or the Slowbro. I definitely feel like there are better options, because X-Scissor and Zen Headbutt could let him break through the Weezing and the Slowbro instead of the Magnet Rise, which is just, I guess it could work, but it's so situational. So situational.
But counter teaming is all about creating those situations.
Well, I know, but a situation like that, it just doesn't even seem like his best answers.
Well, so I'll talk about it when I get to him.
You can talk about it when you get to him. You can have all your ideas. I don't know. We all perceive things differently.
That's true.
To me, it just seemed weird. I just didn't get it. But then he set up a belly drum with his Azumarill, which the sword stance with Cobalion, okay. Iron Head, Sacred Sword, that wouldn't have done much anyway. Doesn't really make a huge difference. I just feel like he should have noticed that there's a Slowbro on the team.
Yeah.
But, it wouldn't have done much anyway, so, it's it doesn't really matter. But, at the end of the day. So, but the Azumarill belly drum, I didn't get that at all. He couldn't sweep the man who has a Haxorus, because, his health would be so low, Aqua Jet doesn't kill, it's not going to work. And you're basically sacking off an Azumarill when your opponent has a Mamoswine and a Heatran.
Yeah,
which didn't make much sense. And overall, I don't feel like the belly drum was the best option. I feel like a Choice Banded set could definitely break through the team.
Yeah.
Considering his answers would... It looked like his answer to Azumarill was a mixture between Weezing and Slowbro.
Both are effective counters to Azumarill.
Both can work. It seemed like I feel like he was planning on using a mixture of both of them, maybe leaning a bit more towards Weezing as a specific counter.
Yeah.
Since he needed the Slowbro a bit more for other things. But overall, I just feel like Choice Banded Azumarill definitely could have broken through the team, and it could have cleaned up late game. Whereas that Belly Drum Azumarill, late game, could have won him the game, but he just used it, really early.
Yeah.
Killed the Florges, which, that's good. Florges is a threat. It was an offensive variant, I think they said, but that's kind of weird, but, it's kind of neat. But I guess it was a threat. It didn't look too scary to me on paper, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I just didn't know the moveset or something.
Yeah.
But overall, I just feel like all that setting up just seemed kind of pointless. And that's one of the things in standard play. Maybe that's why I hate it so much, because people will just make teams of 6 Pokemon that set up, and then they'll just send them out one after another until one of them works. And every once in a while, one of them actually works and sweeps you, and someone who doesn't deserve a win at all will get a win. I don't know. It just seems like a bit of a lazy style of play. I know I'm being a bit harsh, but he's still at number 5 for a reason. He's 4-1, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is tied for best record. I believe he's still second as far as differential goes, so he's second in the league. I'll give him props for that, but I just don't feel like his planning and playing... Well, his playing, I feel like, is good. His planning, though, just to me, doesn't seem all that great, and just the setting up so early just doesn't make sense to me, and it just irks me.
Yeah.
Especially the Azumarill.
Whoa. All right, well, let's move on to number 4. I'll talk about him when I get to him. But my number 4, I have the Washington Red Shells.
I mean, I think that's what you're supposed to do.
So, I have the Washington Red Shells at number 4. He moved down. I still think he's got a really good team. Thunder's theory, and I think he can put a lot of work, but his planning this week, man, it wasn't there. Just like with the who did I say? Just like the Middle Earth Memoirs, it wasn't as bad as that, but it wasn't there. Blissey got the only kill on his team. I think the Hoopa Unbound killed itself to Life Orb Recoil. I want to say. I don't quite remember. I don't think it was the Alamola killing itself with Life Orb Recoil. Just throwing that out there. But I didn't see the planning on his side that I think he should have. He did not have ways to break through Crobat, Bastodon, Aloe, and Kyurem. I think he overlooked Kyurem as a threat. And I know you use Kyurem in the ISL. It worked very well because people overlook it as a threat, and then when he bring it doesn't matter what set. He brought this sub. He brought the subset. And
Sub Roost.
Yeah, and it worked out really well. He could not get through the Kyurem because he didn't have anything for it. I guess Granbull a little bit because it's a fairy, but you look at his team, and I guess the Blissey walls it, but even still, Blissey's not going to be able to do much back to it. So, and that's my problem with like passive walls like Blissey, but that's just a personal thing. But he just, there's really not much more to say. I just didn't like the planning. His playing he plays well, but when the planning's not there, the team falls apart. And that's what I saw this week. He's only down. I only moved him down to number 4, not anything lower. His record's still good. I think this was just a bad week for him, and I think he's one of the more consistent players. I think he's going to bounce back after this. So he's still at number 4, which is a great place to be at, and I want to see him play well, play better, and plan better in future weeks.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's not too much to say about him. I feel like he's been doing very well throughout the weeks, and I feel like this week might have been just a hiccup.
Yeah.
So I definitely think he'll be doing good. But my number 4 is I believe, I remember I just heard this like the other day. Apparently, it's, like, I've been calling it Sequim. Apparently it's just Squim. He is silent.
Yeah.
So I've been calling it the wrong thing this entire time. But, the Squim Malamar are my number 4. Because they've been just surprising me, and I feel like you and just everyone, like, since the beginning.
Yeah, pretty much.
Considering the situation where their team, like, they had missed the draft, so they missed out on getting a lot of really good stuff. But I feel like they managed to get their team, like, a decent team.
Mm-hmm.
And then they managed to polish it up, get rid of that Smeargle. Which is just...
That was so terrible.
Honestly, it makes the team look twice as good now that I don't see a Smeargle there.
Yeah, you just look at it and it's just like, oh, Smeargle's not there. That team's actually not too bad.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know why. Smeargle just... My eyes were just magnetically attracted to why would someone pick Smeargle?
Like I said in the chat, it's dumpster trash.
Yeah, it's trash. But he got rid of it, and now his team is looking good. So I really think like he's been planning consistently. He's been playing consistently. He has 2 losses, but one of them is to a team that has been most consistent and the best overall. Like, we considered it the best in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Not trying to be that guy and like make him sound like some kind of god player, but it's just looking at numbers, basically.
Yeah.
And the other loss was arguably due to hacks. I definitely feel as though
week 1.
The Squim Malamar have been doing very well and definitely surprising me. And as for their match this week, they were in control, just didn't have anything for Heracross.
Yeah.
That really sucked.
You plan for 10 out of 11 Mons, he brings that 11 Mon, it can run through a team.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, let me look at his team real quick. What does he have to really stop a Heracross sweep?
On his team itself, he's got the Gligar.
Oh yeah, Gligar.
That's just stop. It's
I mean,
done.
HP Ice Heracross?
Yeah, well, he's also got a Dragalge, which, it resists the stab, so there's that. But, there's not, I don't really have much to add.
Yeah, well, I just feel like Squim Malamar doing surprisingly consistent, as to what we originally thought. And
Yeah.
I definitely think it's very nice to see that little comeback story of the Squim Malamar making it up to the number 4 spot. On my list, at least.
Alright. So, we're going to kind of rush through the top 3. This has been dragging on a little bit long. So, my number 3 is the Iowa Focus Energy. I'm a little bit, he's at number 3. He is 4-1. My top 3 spots are all 4-1. They've been doing the most consistently. However, he is number 3. And, after, talking about it, I'm not too certain he should be at number 3. I don't feel like he should have won that battle. Not because of the reasons you said, Xavier, just because that end game was just so sloppily played by the Pincers.
Yeah, I don't feel like I don't mean like it lost him the match, but I definitely feel like that was.
Well, if the Detroit Pincers played it right, I think the Iowa Focus Energy would have lost. That's just how I feel about it. You can argue with me, say no, that's wrong. I would have won anyway. That's fine.
No,
I just wanted to say, the only thing I was going to say is he's playing consistently. I'm going to explain what I think the reason for the Cobalion and the setup in the Azumarill real quick. Cobalion, Magnet Rise Sword Stance. The reason I think that's like that is because you go for the Magnet Rise, you force a switch out from either Mamoswine or Haxorus, and you go for the Sword Stance. I know he has a Slowbro. It was a little bit odd timing, but I think that's the reason for it. You force a switch from one of the offensive threats that can take down the Cobalion, and then you set up a Sword Stance. Possibly sweep. Can he sweep? That's debatable. But the Weezing can't really switch in to a +2 Cobalion. It can, but it's not going to want to take an Iron Head.
I mean, I don't.
Or possible.
It would have to be like +6 to Oko, and it'll just will.
Well, not Oko, but it can't really switch into it. You know what I mean? Because there could be a possible 2-Ko.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the calcs in front of me, and Slowbro is the only thing that I can see easily switch into it, but it's. I think it was ill-timed, but I see the reason why it was the way it was. I see the reason for the Magnet Rise Sword Stance. It forces switches from the Mamoswine and the Haxorus, as well as other things on his team. Alright, so I see the reason for that. The Azumarill, setting up right away. I see a reason for that too. Belly Drum Azumarill is not just for sweeping at the end. It is also for punching a hole in the team right in the beginning. Alright? You look at Azumarill, it sets up a Belly Drum. What really wants to switch into it? Not much. Mamoswine can't switch into it because of Aqua Jet.
Let me think for a second.
Knockoff from Slowbro does not want to take a knockoff. Weezing does not want to take any of the hits because it's going to be a +6. Heatran can't take any hit, and Haxorus is not going to want to take any hit. So it's not there to just set up immediately and sweep the entire team, and that. Come on, Skype, stop. Alright, whatever.
You okay?
Yeah, Skype is just making some weird noises again.
No, okay.
So, the Azumarill, even in standard, Belly Drum Azumarill is not just for setting up and sweeping at the end. It is also there to get your opponent off guard in the beginning, or somewhere in the beginning, punch a hole in the team, and then let the rest of the team clean up. So there's more roles that Belly Drum Azumarill can do rather than just end sweeping. Did it work? No, it didn't work. Because he could play switch games with the Azumarill and be able to take it down. So there's that. But I just think it's a little bit too critical to say you set up with the Azumarill too early. It's supposed to sweep at the end. That's not its only role. All right, that's all I'm going to say about the Azumarill and the Cobalion. I know I said a lot, but that's what I'm going to say about them. I just
think Magnet Rise, X-Scissor would have been better. And maybe, I get it that Azumarill can do more than just sweep late game, but in the particular matchup, when your opponent has a Mamoswine and a Heatran, I think saving that for late game would have been the better choice.
Yeah, what I'm just saying is, were both of those things ill-timed? I think so. But what I'm saying is the idea behind it is that Azumarill can punch holes early game, and then Cobalion sweep late game.
The idea behind it can work.
And in a counter-teaming format, these situations, you want to try to create these situations. So that's just the thing. I know in Standard, never work. Magnet Rise, Sword Stance, Cobalion, I don't think would ever work aside from that really rare situation in which your opponent has a team of 6 that you're prepared for. But this is the counter-teaming format, and I think it could have worked. I don't think it did work just because obviously Azumarill only got 1 kill. But that's just my feeling on it. So that's all I'm going to say.
I'd just like to say, you just said we're going to try and run through these last 3.
Yep, I know. I realize and
then go straight into a rant about...
So just move on to your number 3.
All right, okay. So I've got the Washington Red Shells because I feel like this week, just a blimp on the radar. It wasn't a loss against a lower team. It was a loss against a pretty high team. As you can probably guess if you've been paying attention to the list so far, the Berkham said Bastiodon, they lost to them. It was a pretty heavy loss, but I just feel like, as I said earlier, I feel like this is just a blimp on the radar because I've seen the Red Shells planning, and it's been very good.
Yeah.
They think about every little niche, it seems like. Because they've just got they speed creep things, they EV to live certain hits, and it all just seems to just work in their favor.
Yeah.
Week to week, except for, 2 weeks, but, we're just not going to talk about that. But,
just not talk about the losses.
Shh. This team has Victini. That didn't happen. The victory Pokemon.
Well. Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to bounce back, but...
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the 3-2 record, it's not the best record in the league, but at the same time, I feel like his team is good, his planning's good. I feel like he's just a good player in general. Yeah, and I definitely feel like he will be at least making playoffs this season.
Yeah, and also 3-2, that's only 1 loss behind the top team, so it's not even that far.
Exactly, and I believe the 2 losses were against the 1 and 2 positions of both of our lists.
Yeah, so that's...
So it's
I see it. But anyway, moving on to number 2, we both agree on 2 and 1. So we're just going to run through these real quick, just because there's not really too much to say about them. Berkhamstan Bastiodons, I underestimated them early in the season. They are playing extremely well. You don't get a 4-0 by not playing extremely well. And he's playing, not only is he playing extremely well, he's playing consistently extremely well. So I have absolutely no complaints about how they're playing, how they're planning. They brought big threats that the Washington Red Sox were not prepared for. And it worked. The Alamo and the Hoopa Unbound went down, and I think the Hoopa went down because of recoil damage, not even because the red shells actually killed it. It just died of recoil. So, no, I don't really have much else to say about them besides that.
Yeah, the Berkhamsted Bastiodons definitely. They're another team that was kind of low at the beginning. Okay, mainly just the fact that I really didn't like all his NUs he had. Mm-hmm. Like the Swim Malamar, he polished that up, and it's looking really good now. But just overall, his team has been planned well, his team has been played well, and he's just been doing well. He's beaten some pretty impressive teams, and I definitely think he will be a force to be reckoned with throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah. And the Berkhamsted Bastiodons even beat our number 1, the Toronto Tyrantrum. So it's a very close race between the two. They're both playing very well. And
it's very close. You never know when one's going to fall behind.
Yeah, and I guess... I hate Skype sometimes. And I guess moving on to number 1, Toronto Tyrantrons. If you haven't figured it out by now, it's on the screen. You can see it.
I'm very sorry if you're blind.
I honestly...
I apologize on Burke's behalf.
I honestly don't know what to say about them, besides, he got up 6 kills with his Heracross. The only thing that on his team that actually got kills with the Heracross, he played the way he's supposed to play it. You know what I mean? He weakened the team of the Sequin Malamars to the point where he just sent in the Heracross and it clicked Coast Combat, I think, 4 times in a row and killed 4 things.
He just wins.
To win. Yeah, he just
presses the win button.
Yeah, and he's consistent. He's not getting the huge 6-0 wins that, like he didn't get a 6-0 like the Chelsea Shandies. He's not getting like 5-0s and 4-0s. It's kind of like a modest 2-0, 3-0 week to week, but it doesn't matter if you just keep winning. It's not going to matter what your differential is if by the end of the season you have the most wins.
Yeah.
So
because
he's just
differential doesn't matter if you're ahead of someone in wins.
Yeah, he's just being really consistent, and I have no complaints about how he's been playing. He's been playing extremely well, and I'm just looking forward to how far he takes it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. I definitely agree with the whole philosophy that go for the win over the differential.
Yeah.
Don't take a risk to get a 3-0 when you can take a guaranteed 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
That's just... It's a slight difference, but, unless you're in a situation where you need that one extra differential to actually make playoffs, I don't see why you would do that.
Yeah. Obviously, don't throw away differential.
Just don't throw it away.
Cough, cough.
But,
other team I won't mention that I already went on a rant on about. But, yeah, he just plays so consistently. I can't see him. There's no reason for me to move him down.
Yeah. I've not been given a reason yet. And I believe he even lost last week to the Berkhamsted Bastiodons. So you could argue that Berkhamsted Bastiodons should be number 1. But I just feel like overall the Toronto Tyrantrons deserve the number 1 spot a bit more.
Yeah, I think they have the stronger team.
Yeah. Because the Berkhamsted Bastiodons, I don't know, their team just seems a tad more predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And just, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a close race no matter what. Toronto and the Berkhamsted, very close. We'll see how they do in future weeks. They already played, so obviously they're not going to play again. But we'll see how well Toronto can play, especially next week. He does play the Vesquim Park Rangers. We'll see how he does.
Yeah, I believe this is a rematch of last season's playoffs. Not last season, but a different league's playoffs.
The NBL's playoffs.
The NBL's playoffs, where I believe the Vesquim Park Rangers lost due to some unfortunate kind of I don't know what you'd call it. It's not. I wouldn't consider it hacks.
RNG rolls.
Yeah, just some RNG rolls.
So, but I don't really have much else to say about them.
Yep, I don't have much either.
All right, well, that is the Week 5 Power Rankings. Let us know what you think the Power Rankings should be. If you disagree, leave them in the comment section below. If you think, again, like always, we're being stupid and putting teams in the wrong places, let us know that too.
Yeah. And just tell me why everything I said was wrong and why you were right and why my opinion is stupid and doesn't matter.
That it doesn't. But anyway,
Okay.
That is going to wrap up this week's Power Rankings. My name is Burke. His name is Xavier.